Hello everyone, welcome back to the questions based on jurisprudence. The first question, what is John Finney's most influential book? Natural Law and Natural Rights, published in 1980. Who is eligible for legal aid? Individuals who meet a financial criteria or are involved in certain legal issues such as domestic violence or eviction. What are the three main types of legal aid? Advice and counseling, representation and mediation. What is criminal justice? Criminal justice is a system that prosecutes, convicts, and punishes crimes to maintain public order. How does criminal justice differ from civil justice? Criminal justice deals with crimes harming society, while civil justice resolves private disputes. What is the primary purpose of criminal justice? To determine guilt or innocence, ensuring accountability and impose sanctions. How does criminal justice deter crime? By imposing punishments like imprisonment and fines to discourage illegal behavior. What is the role of rehabilitation in criminal justice? To help offenders reintegrate into society through education, counseling, and training. What does retribution mean in criminal justice? Offenders receive a punishment proportional to their crimes. And what types of cases is legal aid commonly provided? Civil cases, for example, divorce, tenancy disputes, criminal cases, and public interest cases. Give an example of a public interest case that may receive a legal aid. Environmental protection or human rights cases. How does law function as a tool for social control? By defining acceptable behavior and penalizing violations to deter crime and promote compliance. What role does law play in promoting social justice? It ensures fairness and protects vulnerable groups from discrimination and inequality. How does law maintain order in society? By preventing chaos and disorder through legal regulations and enforcement. How can law facilitate social change? Through legal reforms that are adapted to new social, political, and economic conditions. What is intersectionality and feminist jurisprudence? Intersectionality is the idea that multiple forms of discrimination, for example race, class, gender, intersect and shape individuals' experiences. How does feminist jurisprudence critique traditional legal categories? It challenges gender roles, family structures, and sexuality laws that marginalize women and reinforce traditional norms. Which medieval philosopher influenced Finney's natural law theory? Thomas Aquinas. What key concept did Finney develop in his theory of natural law? The idea of basic human goods. What are some of the basic goods identified by Finney? Life, knowledge, play, aesthetic experience, friendship, practical reasonableness, and religion. What is Rawls' central concept of justice? Justice as fairness. What are the three main types of authority? Legislative, judicial, and a customary authority. What is legislative authority? Legislative authority refers to the power to make laws and create legal frameworks that govern society. Which institutions typically hold legislative authority in democratic systems? The parliaments, congresses, or assemblies composed of elected representatives. Who funds or provides legal aid services? Government programs, NGOs, and a pro bono work by lawyers. What is an example of a government-funded legal aid organization? Legal Services Corporation in the US or Legal Aid Society in the UK. What is pro bono work? When lawyers provide free legal services to those who cannot afford them. What are the two major challenges faced by legal aid programs? Insufficient funding and overburdened legal aid providers. What is judicial authority? Judicial authority refers to the power of courts and judges to interpret and apply the law in individual cases. Why is judicial authority important? Judicial authority upholds the rule of law, ensures justice, and protects individual rights. How does criminal justice protect society? By removing dangerous individuals and preventing further crimes. What is the function of law enforcement in criminal justice? Investigating crimes, gathering evidence, and arresting suspects. What role does the prosecution play? Representing the state and proving the guilt of the accused in court. What is the role of the defense in criminal trials? To protect the legal rights of the accused and challenge the prosecution's case. What do courts do in criminal justice? They determine guilt or innocence and impose sentences. What is judicial review? Judicial review is the power of courts to examine the constitutionality of laws passed by the legislature. What is customary authority? Customary authority is based on traditional practices and social customs rather than written laws. Where is customary authority commonly found? It is commonly found in a tribal, indigenous, or local communities. What is natural law? Natural law is the idea that laws must be in harmony with the universal moral principles or natural justice. How does natural law limit a legislative authority? It argues that laws must align with the moral standards such as justice, equality, and human rights. How does legal aid empower marginalized groups? By ensuring their rights are protected and their voices are heard in legal matters. How does legal aid strengthen the rule of law? By providing legal representation to those who cannot afford it, ensuring fairness in the justice system. What international conventions recognize legal aid as a fundamental right? UDHR, that is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and ICCPR, that means International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. How does legal aid contribute to equality in society? By ensuring that justice is not limited to the wealthy and is available to all. What is one way to improve the effectiveness of legal aid programs? Increasing funding and expanding eligibility criteria. What did Thomas Aquinas believe about natural law? He believed that human laws should reflect eternal and natural law, and that unjust laws are invalid. What is the veil of ignorance in Rawls' theory? A thought experiment where individuals choose principles of justice without knowing their own social status or personal characteristics. What are Rawls' two principles of justice? Equal basic liberties for all, and social or economic inequalities are justified only if they benefit the least advantaged. What is the original position in Rawls' theory? The original position is a hypothetical scenario where individuals agree on principles of justice under fair conditions. Why does Rawls prioritize basic liberties over economic inequalities? Because justice must first secure equal liberties before addressing inequalities.